Hi, I'm Vicky of Tricks. I run a fetish business and I'm also part of the UK BDSM scene. And I get a lot of people asking me what it's actually like going to fetish events. So in the UK, but also you'll find mostly worldwide now, there's a few different types of fetish events. There's munches, there's private play parties, there's fetish clubs, and then they're not actually part of the BDSM thing, but they're swingers clubs as well. And it's important to know the difference so you go to the right kind of event for you. So a munch is a get together, usually in a pub. It's usually in a general pub with normal members of the public there as well, where the munch will have its own separate little table or area, but you are amongst regular everyday people. There'll be some way to identify that that's the munch group, but most people will dress in normal clothes. If you're wearing any kind of BDSM thing like a collar, it will be fairly discreet, so there's nothing to majorly set you apart from just a bunch of people together having a chat. At those, there's no BDSM play, there's nothing that actually goes on in a BDSM or a kink or a sex sense, because you're out in public with everyday people. But they're a nice way to meet people in your local area, or if you've travelled in a different area of the country who you know are into kink. There'll be complete beginners there, there'll be experienced people there. It's a great way to just be able to talk about the kind of things that you're into that you might not feel happy yet just sharing with your mates down the pub. It's a nice way to talk about events and see if there's other people there who have been to specific clubs or club nights or other places that you're interested in going to get some idea from them on what that particular event is like and whether it's for you. It's a nice way to maybe make some friends in the scene. So perhaps you can find some friends that you could go to a kink club with at some point. The main thing at them is don't get too drunk where you're then likely to make a fool of yourself. Don't touch people without their consent. Don't start treating someone if they are in a collar as if they're a sub or talk down to them. Just treat everybody there like a normal human being who is just having a shared interest with you that happens to be kink. So don't get overly lecherous. Also don't get too shy. If you don't talk to anyone and you just sit in the corner, it's not their job to come over and talk to you. If you think that might happen, there's usually an organiser online that you can message beforehand and say that you're coming along, but you are a bit shy and you're a bit unsure about it. And then on the day, they might come over and help you and help introduce you to a couple of people and try and help a conversation get started. But if you don't go and make an attempt to chat to people, then it's not them. It's not their responsibility to come over and chat to you. So that's a munch. There are occasionally different types of munches. So there are some that are held in private venues where there might be some play and there might be some different aspects. But when you find out about that munch, it should tell you that it's that type of munch. If it's just a general munch, then it's most likely to be held in a normal setting with other normal people around, and you're expected just to turn up in everyday clothes and just chat to people that you can quite happily chat about kink stuff, but don't shout it if there's other people nearby who might not be aware of what that group's there to meet and chat about. Another type of event is a private play party. So that will usually be around someone's house, or someone might have hired a fetish club for it. The only way to get to one of these, because it's private, is to know one of the people going or one of the organisers. So again, maybe by going to munches, you might start to meet some people and you might get invited to something like this. They used to be a lot more common in the past, before the internet was a big thing and before there were as many kink clubs as there are now, because there weren't many big organised events. So people would tend to go around to somebody's house in order to play and do it as a group of them, because that was safer than just one person going around to one stranger's house. A much more common thing these days is to go to a fetish club. So there's fetish clubs all around the UK. There's fetish events held at those clubs on specific dates and times. For all of this, the easiest resource these days to find them is a website called fetlife.com. So FETLIFE.com. You can sign up for free, and then you can create a profile for free, and then you can search for events, put in your town, and then search for events near you and see what comes up. Once you've found an event listing on there, it will tell you all the specifics, like how much it costs, whether you need entry fee, whether there's any particular restrictions, whether there's a dress code, and all the details like that about where and when it is and what the theme of that particular event is. It is important to read this information because all of them will be slightly different. Some of them have a particular leaning, like they're for dominant men and submissive women, or they might be for people who are heavily into rubber, or they might have no restrictions, but most of them will still have some kind of dress code. There's a few specific events, like specific rubber events, and some of the specific London events like Torture Garden that have a very strict dress code. A lot of the others, it's just basically showing that you've made some kind of effort, that you've got something that's a little bit out of the everyday to wear, so that everybody there knows that you're there for the same kind of event as they're there for, and it makes everybody feel a bit more relaxed, and it gives you the chance to wear something that you feel a bit more sexy and a bit more outrageous in than what you'd wear just to go around the supermarket. Once you get to a fetish club, if it's your first time, most clubs will have a meet and greet team who will be able to show you around the club, show you where everything is, run through the club rules with you, and make sure that you feel comfortable there and you know what's going on, and that they get a vibe from you that they feel comfortable with you as well. So if you turn up intoxicated and start grabbing the first naked person that you see, they're within their rights to chuck you out and say this isn't the right time or the right event for you, and talk through with you why and how you need to come back next time a little bit more sober and definitely more restrained. And the basic rules for a club are be polite and respectful. Just because it's a fetish club and there's going to be naked people and sexy things going on doesn't mean that general rules on politeness go out the window. So each club will have its own set of specific rules, but the general set of rules for all of them is obey the dress code, chat to people. If people are busy in the middle of some obvious scene in an area, don't go over and talk to them at that point. Wait until they're not actively playing on some piece of equipment or doing something obviously intensely kinky, the two of them or in a group. Don't touch anyone without consent, whether they look like they're submissive or dominant. Don't touch other people's equipment without their consent as well. So if you see a pretty flogger lying on a table next to where a couple are playing, don't go over and start picking up the flogger and asking them about it or walking off with it. That will be their piece of equipment. If you like the look of it, again, wait until they're not playing anymore, sat at the bar having a drink or something, and say, I noticed you had some really interesting pieces of kit. And a lot of the time, people will be very happy then to show you through the kit and let you hold things and show you how to use different bits. If you're going along on your own and you're curious about playing with people, talk to people. If you just stand at the bar on your own, nursing a drink, looking around, but not actually interacting with anyone, they're not going to know that you're there to play. They're not going to pounce on you. They're not going to interact with you because they'll be there with their friends. They'll be there with play partners. If you are new, then you need some confidence, or to accept that you might need to turn up a few times before you get the confidence to talk to people. And if they've seen you at something a few times, they're more likely to recognise you and know you're not just some stranger who's wandered in off the street as their first ever fetish event. If you are going on your own, you can look for events that are specifically more targeted for that. So if you're a single submissive male, there's some femdom events where there will be some organised introduction time. Or there's events where there's more performances. So rather than it being a focus completely on BDSM play with a partner, there'll be shows and performances for you to watch as part of the event. So then there's something for you to do if you're on your own, and then there's something that you can talk to people around you about whether you enjoyed that performance or what you thought of something. So it's a way to create a conversation for you. At events, drinking heavily is generally frowned upon. If you are there completely intoxicated, people are not going to be very interested in interacting with you. They're not going to want to tie you up and play with you because you won't be as in control of your senses, you won't feel as much sensation. So at fetish events, some alcohol is sometimes consumed, but not usually to great excesses. And if you are stumbling about, obviously completely drunk, people are going to be a bit more wary of you. So having 1 or 2 drinks, if you usually do, to gain a bit of courage, is completely fine, but don't have 10 pints of beer at the bar or before you even show up. Swingers events are quite different from BDSM events. Swingers events are very sex-based, very little BDSM play goes on. There's some of the focus on consent and dressing up, but not as heavily as there is in BDSM. And at those, drinking is usually more acceptable, to have a few drinks to get the courage up to then go and approach somebody that you want to have sex with. There isn't a huge crossover between the BDSM scene and the kink scene. It is better to think about what type of event you're interested in trying out initially, whether you are more looking for sex or whether you're looking for BDSM play, and then pick a swingers event if you want sex and a BDSM club if you want BDSM play. It doesn't mean that there's no BDSM that goes on at sex clubs, and it doesn't mean that there's no sex at BDSM clubs, but choosing which one you're more interested in going for and going to the right type of event means you're more likely to have a good time. And the main thing with all of it is to remember to have safe, sane, consensual fun. You're going there to enjoy yourself, but to allow everybody else there to enjoy themselves as well. So go there, dress up, have fun, have a look around, see what's going on, get some ideas. If you're going with your partner and you're too nervous to play, that's completely fine. It's never obligatory to get up and do anything you don't want to do, or to wear an outfit more outrageous than you feel comfortable with. Take your time, go to things, have a look around. It can be a great way to have a look at what other people do and get some ideas about what you might want to do in future. And don't worry if nothing happens the first time you go to something. Go back, go to things a few times, get more comfortable with things, figure things out, start getting to know some people, and more things will happen and get more interesting the more times you go back. I've got a whole channel about BDSM. Look for Bondatrix on YouTube. We're also on all social media, and we have a website, bondatrix.com, selling all kinds of BDSM gear.